Topic today is Jesus, parties, and mission. Question: how can we share the message and the mercy of Jesus Christ with those around us? It's kind of been a theme of what we've been talking about recently. And before we get started, want to make a big shout out to Go Broncos. Yeah. Ethan gave me this jersey like I don't know how long ago. I think it's all backwards. Maybe it's right. As I'm looking into the camera right now, Tebow is backwards, but I am not really much of a football fan. I get excited about the last 3 minutes of the Super Bowl for the whole year. And this year, who is it going? The Seahawks going against the Patriots. Now, my son is a big Patriots fan, and we're going over and have a party at his house, and I'll be wearing my Broncos jersey. I'm more of a Tim Tebow fan than I am an NFL fan. I love that one season where they put him in, and he turned the season around, and they made it to the playoffs. They won, and then they fired him. So must be politics. It must be all a conspiracy there with the NFL. But our question is mission, and we've been talking about this question about how do we connect in everyday life, seeing ourselves as Christians on mission. And here we are with this is Saturday evening. It's 5:30, 5:29 here in the evening on Saturday before the Super Bowl here in Albuquerque. And today we're in the office and little less distractions than we had out at Louisiana Central last Saturday. And by the way, I sent that email out with the link to the video, and I had tech problems, and it bounced that email into everybody's, or at least a lot of people's junk or spam folder. So if you want to see me get heckled at the bus stop, just dig into your junk folder or your email spam folder and click on the link right there that'll take you to the video, Christians on Mission. Christian on Mission is kind of hard to find on YouTube right now since it's such a brand new video. Back to our topic, Christians, mission, or Christians, let me get it right. I'm losing my mind here. Jesus, parties, and mission. How can we share the message and mercy of Christ with those around us? How can we connect in our own culture and in our own communities? I've said this before, but if there's one thing for me that came out of the year 2025, it gave me a heart for my own culture. Born and raised in the United States of America, and always had a desire for getting somewhere else than where I was. And as I grew in my faith, that blended in with wanting to combine adventure with mission, and went to the Philippines a couple times and had an absolute blast. And then mom and dad moved to Mexico. They went to the Philippines for a couple of years, and they went to Mexico for about 10 years, and just absolutely loved cross-culture missions, and just dreamed that one day I would be a cross-culture missionary. Well, 2025 kind of revealed a couple things to me personally, and that is the United States of America needs missionaries. The U.S. needs Jesus. Our culture, we cannot assume by any means that our neighbors understand the gospel or that the gospel is saturated in our culture. It's just the opposite. And that was on one side. And the other thing was I lost that desire. I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever go or wouldn't want to go, but I lost a desire to do out of the U.S. missions. I'll go anywhere that the Lord calls, and love to do a trip. I've talked with friends about going to Africa and going to Central America, and that'd be great. I would love it. Wherever the Lord opens doors. But as far as a call for our work right here, I feel a burden. I feel a burden for Albuquerque. I feel a burden for the United States. I feel a burden for the the culture that I grew up in. And one of the biggest challenges when doing mission work, when you do cross-culture missions, when you get into the country, is to get the locals to have a burden for their own country, their own culture, their neighbors across the street. And it's been a long time coming for me. I feel it now and really enjoy touching base with all of you that tune in on this. So how do we connect with neighbors? Well, we talked about going to places of need, like we had that talk across the fence from the public school, and ask that you continue to pray for that public school that's just down the street from us, and all the public schools around our area. And public schools, wherever you are, they're everywhere. They are a strategic location for connecting with some of the most needed items, needed people, needed the biggest needs within your neighborhood. And so pray about that. See how the Lord would lead you in connecting in new ways with your local public school system. Then last week, we see people that literally going out on the streets and having street ministry. And we interviewed Pastor Manuel from Albuquerque Church on the Streets, and had a fascinating introduction live on camera. Hadn't ever met him before. And we got to talk with him and let him tell us about his ministry there on the streets. But what about the our friends and family and people that we could invite that are in our circle? Every missionary knows, study the culture. One of my favorite things to do when visiting mom and dad when they were missionaries in Mexico and in the Philippines, but never went to the Philippines when mom and dad were there. I went there before they went. Then they went afterwards. But we used to take the kids and the family down to Mexico when they were there and get a chance to preach. And back then, my Spanish was a lot better than it is now. And we would preach with an interpreter, and sometimes I could get ahead of the interpreter with my own Spanish. Well, imagine what it would be like to talk to people that only know Spanish in English. We're not talking to them in their language. And we need to talk to people in our neighborhoods and in our communities in their language. We need to understand what is important, what is on people's hearts and minds when we are visiting with people that we know. We need to speak their language. And in the U.S., tomorrow, the language is the Super Bowl. And I want to talk about parties. 3 parties that display something very unique when it comes to mission. And this will help us connect with those across the street. All right, 3 parties. First party I want to talk about, find it very interesting. In John chapter 2, verse 2, Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to a wedding. Jesus starts out his public ministry by going to a wedding. Jesus goes to a big party, and they were even invited. It says there in John 2, verse 2, Jesus started off his display of New Testament Christianity with a celebration, with a party. He even provided the best wine in mass quantities. Jesus started off his ministry with a celebration. Christianity includes celebrating. Next, Revelation 19, verse 9 says, "Blessed are those invited to the marriage supper of the Lamb." Another invitation, another wedding. Interesting. The very first of Jesus's ministry here as the God-man was responding to an invitation to a wedding. And right at the very beginning of our experience living in the fullness of the kingdom in heaven is responding to an invitation to another wedding. Christianity seems to be interested in celebrating and food and weddings and parties. 2 parties. What's the third party? It's your party. It's your party that maybe you're having tomorrow night. We have the opportunity there's a lot to be said about what Jesus was doing there at that wedding. But one thing is, we can follow him in showing our neighbors that Christians do a lot of things, and a lot of things we do are offensive. The gospel has an offense, but also the gospel has a beauty. It's a double-edged sword. It cuts both ways. And we can display that there is beauty, there is fun, there is celebration, there is good food there will be good food in heaven. If you ever get a chance to read Randy Alcorn's book, Heaven, it was life-changing for me. But showing your neighbors that Christians enjoy getting together, enjoy being face-to-face, enjoy being at a gathering. We love to gather together. And didn't the pandemic 5 or 6 years ago show us that life gets pretty hollow if we can't get with each other face to face? We are social creatures. God created church for us to not just be online, not just watch a recording of someone like me right now, that we need to literally get face to face, get together. There is something special and unique when we gather. And it reminds me of this other verse, John chapter 1, verse 14. I grew up using the King James Version, and I still love it. I love other versions as well. But the King James Version says this in John chapter 1, verse 14. It says, "And the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth." The gospel is always good news. Keller said, it's not good advice, it's good news. And so many of us slide into seeing the Bible as telling us a list of things that we are supposed to do. Well, the Bible includes that, but the theme of the gospel message is not about the lists of things that we are supposed to do. It's to display what Jesus has already done, and then we respond in love. Jesus came and he dwelt. I like that old word. And he dwelt among us. Other versions say, and he tabernacled among us. Jesus took on flesh. Jesus came and he became human being. He understood what it's like to be a Jewish man at a certain point in history. He understood what it was like to live in a small town and grow up with people talking about his scandalous birth. He understood what it was like to feel the political and the religious pressure of the powers that be in Jerusalem. Jesus understood what it was like to be tired when he sat at the well there in Samaria. Jesus understands what it's like to be human because he came and became one of us. That's what Christianity is all about, is that we have a God that understands human pain, understands human joy, a God that understands what it's like to be you. And he suffered. He was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He understands the ups and downs of being human because he entered into a broken, sinful world with rebellious people. His own people rejected him. Well, we're going to feel those same pressures as human beings in our communities, in our families, in our neighborhoods. But Jesus did that not as just an example. He did that for us. That's the gospel. It's about what Jesus did. He perfectly became incarnate. It's called the incarnation. He took on flesh. Jesus has done the incarnation for us. Real mission, real gospel motivation is when we are amazed, when we are thankful, and we are motivated about how much Jesus has poured into us. We think, I didn't deserve this. I was lonely and he drew near. I was in the dark and he brought light. Think of all the places that we were, and Jesus invaded our world. And there's something about human nature when we are given so much, it tips the scales to make us say, well, I want to give to others. And that's what we can do. And that's the motivation to reach out to those around us. And we can do that at a party. So it reminds me of Dad. I'll probably refer to Dad a lot as we have our journey with these videos. I want to do a side. I wonder if I'll remember this. Probably should stick to the point and then remember. I wish I could say, "Hey, remind me," but I want to talk about big picture about the ministry right now and why we're doing these videos. So I want to try to remember that after this. Dad, as many of you know, felt a conviction to go to the Philippines and share the love of Christ in Asia. And he did. And he took, it's an amazing story. I will share the full details of the story. But here, Dad was 27, 28 years as a pastor of a little small town church, and felt a burden to go to the Philippines. Some of the people within our network of churches had gone to the Philippines and had started planting churches, and I went first out of our family, and just mind-blowing experiences for me. I absolutely was thrilled by that experience, and I came back and talked to Dad, and he wanted to go, and so Dad went. Same effect, and I've never seen a man pray so fervently and long as Dad through that season. Dad continues to pray fervently, but he shifted gears and would just go into seclusion for hours as he prayed about this huge undertaking that he was considering. And you had also seen him walking out in the fields, far like along the horizon, marching with his whole body kind of tilted forward as he was alone in nature with his God, praying about how to do this. Ended up selling the farm, said some tearful goodbyes, and they were fostering children at that time. They had long-term foster care children. And what was it? Eight of the kids went with Mom and Dad. Grandma was in a wheelchair and absolutely in love with her poodle. And so all of them, we wished them goodbye at DFW Airport, and they all took all of their luggage, what was it, 10 people? Could be. I'm pretty sure it was 8 of them. I have to pull up a picture. I'll put it on the Facebook page sometime. But they went to the Philippines and ministered in the Philippines for about 2 years. And the circumstances brought them back, and then they went to and did similar work in Mexico, just south of El Paso, Texas. And here's what happened. I think Dad was actually in Mexico 9 years, and in El Paso for between 1 and 2 years, about a year and a half. When he was living in Texas, in El Paso, he would go across and minister in Juarez. And he would go once or twice a week and do lots of work. They rented a building, they planted a church, and there would be times where they would spend the night in the church building that they had rented, and then come back over to the States, weekly. And there came a point where Dad says, "I need to dwell among them." He needed to live where he was ministering, and ended up buying a house and moved the ministry. It was on the west side of Juarez, and just in the poorest of the poor area. People had you've seen the shacks, probably been there, but you see pallet houses wrapped in tar paper and just a blanket for a door. And he was living in the poorest of the poor there on the side of that Mexican city. Something changed in the ministry when he moved into the neighborhood. That part of the city saw a lot of ministries come and go, and you would see the white extended vans that would drive around, and people would come and they would build houses, and that they would do VBS style ministry, and there would be preaching, and then there would be orphanages and different types of ministries. There was a ministry there for mentally handicapped people. In that ministry, we would go and serve there and go. It was all in like a great big compound with walls so high you couldn't climb out. And there is horrible there. It was horror in some of those places. The way that they controlled people without without their faculties, their mental faculties. They didn't have the type of policies and regulations that we have here in the United States. And um, Dad was so bold, and he would go into these little. If you can just imagine a Mexican compound with a whitewashed adobe type walls, concrete walls, and with little cells, little cubicles, little dark doors. And Dad would go into I never went inside of one of those. We ministered and interacted with the people and sang and preached out in the plaza. It was just dirt. I remember one time talking, and I think I was trying to preach or sing or whatever, but I looked up, and across the roof was a goat was walking across the roof during our service, and it kind of got people's attention, and we had to deal with that. Dad would go into those dark doors, and they had people chained to the walls to control them physically because they were out of their mind, and that's how they dealt with their situation. And they didn't have the sewage, they didn't have the so you can just paint the picture of a human being in one spot for days after days after days with all of the bodily needs, eating as well as the restrooms, and it was just a smelly, horrible, dark mess. And Dad would go in there. But the point is, Dad moved into the neighborhood. He bought a house there in the neighborhood, and everything changed. It became different when he came and he dwelled among the people. Well, Jesus came into our mess, into our darkness, into our filth, into our chaos. That's Christianity. We have a God that has come. It makes a difference when we incarnate, when we come and we blend in rather than being isolated. It's a balance because we need to remain faithful to the Word of God, trusting in His power and His righteousness. Yet we need to blend in like salt into our neighborhoods, and it's a challenge, and it's quite easy for some churches to pretty much just stay within the four walls or stay within a network of friendships that don't include non-believers, that don't include people that we're don't know or maybe not even related to. And then there's others that all they do is are out amongst unbelievers, and they tend to get more like the unbelievers than they do like the Christian testimony within their heart of who they are as Christians. And so there's this challenge and there's this struggle. But Jesus came. He did it for us. He became incarnate. He entered into our world, and it upends the scale, the balance scale. So we say, He did that for us. I want to do that for others. And some of your personalities are very extroverted. I'm thinking of, I'll just call it, well, I want to be careful calling people out without their permission. If you text me or if you email me, I have not crossed the line and told anybody that I'm going to use your name. And so I won't use your name unless I have your permission. But one of you I know is a friend here in Albuquerque, and you are one of the most people I have ever met. You are such a joy to be around, and you've never met someone that wasn't a friend, and you're connecting with people. And I know you invite people into your home, and you and your wife put on parties and dinner engagements with your neighbors and with people that you meet, and you brought me into your circle, and that's how you are. Others are we're more kind of like our home is our fortress, and it's a place where we get away and recharge. Well, figure out what works for you. Use the personality and the gifts and the skills that God has given you. Do you have something that you have invested in with your time and you feel called to? Well, bring people into that, whatever that is, and use your skills and talents in a way that is missional. So that is that. I'm looking at the camera and see that 24 minutes has gone by, but Jesus parties, and mission. How can we share the message and mercy of Christ with those around us? Have a party, go Broncos, and appreciate your prayers. Had a chance to talk to a couple of you on the phone this week, and there's so much more that can be said. I'll save it for next time since we're doing weekly updates, but we had a real move forward on that. As missionaries, Karma and I are focusing on uh, helping pro-life ministries, and we had some good movement forward with that this week. Also, equipping men had some amazing movement forward with that this week, and then also serving our church and help building our church plant and encouraging others to do the same thing. Those three areas, but this week especially, we had some real movement forward with our plans for equipping men and pro-life. But I want to share both of those things with you as we move forward. The purpose and the point, I remembered, I was going to say something, and I remembered, it's amazing, that I think I'm going to start numbering these videos. You have the picture on YouTube, and then you have your title. I think I'm going to start numbering these because this is really kind of a documenting our journey going along. The name of the YouTube channel is Christians on Mission, and just looking for ways that all of us can practically apply the call to do outreach, to share the message and mercy of Jesus Christ with those around us, to be salt and light in our world, and find practical ways, practical steps that we can do that. And so I'm listening to you. I'm enjoying visiting with you. I appreciate your emails and your texts and our phone calls, but also documenting our journey so we can all follow along and see how this develops. Sharing with you just the baby steps of starting a ministry and a mission work here in Albuquerque. And I'm thinking if someone comes in the future and looks at these videos, they're going to see a progression in the content and maybe a progression in the technology. I had some challenges with technology tonight. Anyway, so hope this works. I hope this audio works. The last time I used this, see this little mic? Last time I used this this mic, this is the iPhone mic, inside it sounded really echoey. And this mic over here is here, let me put this down. This is my old standard podcasting mic, and I use this at work. I develop podcasts at work. That's my job. And but I think there's a short in the cable, and so this wouldn't work. And so I was going to use I've got this camera that plugs into the laptop, and none of that was working. So I said, fine, I'm going to grab my little setup that I use here with the iPhone. And this is a cool little DJI setup where it's a Bluetooth mic with a windscreen, and using that. So I hope it works. Hope this comes through. And, but yeah, want to start, I think, numbering these kind of like episodes in a series, so that if someone wants to come in and catch up, they can go, oh, well, this was the first one. Here's the second one, third one, fourth one. I think this is the fifth we're coming in, but I want to be able to look at these in order. Appreciate your prayers so much, praying for you as well. The big part of this ministry is what we're doing right here, connecting. It's such a blast to, as we've lived in different places and been part of different churches through the years, to have a reason to reach out with different people, and talking to you guys on the phone. I'm like, they really are listening. It's amazing. And we can talk about our lives and how it relates around this topic of what we're doing. But it is such a I could keep talking here, but it's getting 29 minutes. As I think about us moving around to different churches, as we prayed and the Lord led us over the last 20 or 30 years, man, there's groups of people that I love dearly that are in different states, and you miss people. I miss you. I remember the days when we used to be able to interact or be with each other on a daily or weekly basis, and life changes, doesn't it? Life moves on, and to have this opportunity to reconnect at this way is as much a part of the fun as the work that we're doing here in the city. So appreciate each one of you so much, and appreciate you that are looking at the emails and looking at the videos and sending your comments. And I've got a special comment in the email for this Sunday. Going to send that out here Sunday morning, and I hope they don't all go to junk. So I hope to get that tech figured out. So God bless you all, and we'll talk to you next week.